So as a parent, I would never want to hide food from my kids. I would rather starve and give them the food, um, because they're my kids, and I want to feed them, and I want to work for them. I want to go get another job. I want to give them everything they desire. And one thing I remember vividly was I asked my dad for a doll, and he would never buy me toys, okay, in the first place. But I really, really wanted that doll. So I asked him to buy it for me. And he tells me that he would rather buy food than the toy. Although I understood, I mean, I didn't understand then, but as I get older, I understood what that means. But however, there's that piece of me, a part of me thinking, how can you not buy me a toy that I want? Like, how can you not? How? I mean, if you don't have the means to do it, wouldn't you, go out there and work to give me what I want? You know? So I started thinking like that, and and so for the longest time, I was angry. It didn't stop even after I became a parent, because even then, I mean, at that time, I truly realized that I would do anything for my kids, and why didn't you? That kind of question. It's just constantly questioning, my parents. Not so much as my mom. Like I said, she doesn't know any better. That was my excuse for her. But my dad, however, is that he was a very capable man, and he was smart. And I looked up to him when we were young, when we were little. And so, yeah. With that said, years go by. 6 years later, they they gotten old, and every now and again I will have these arguments. Not really arguments, it was more of a shout. Fine, I won't do it anymore. Then just boom, hang up. Fine, I won't say anymore. Just bang, hang up, right? So, and as he got older, even though he wasn't a very, he wasn't very open about his feelings before, but as he got older, he just didn't care. He would just tell you off if you said something that he didn't like. So anyway, so if I say something that he didn't like, he would yell at me, and I was like, fine, and then I'll hang up, right? So it wasn't even like a argument. Like, no, there's no arguments to take place. So anyway, so the relationship has always been on the rocky side, if you will. And right before they pass, there was a tremendous change in my life, that I saw a suffering of my people in a way that I have never seen, or I never care. I mean, horrible things are happening all around the world if you choose to see it. And I cut myself blind for the longest time. And yeah. It's really true what they say. People see what they want to see. It's really true. So when these horrible things were happening to me, I realized that we are all human. And it was happening at the place at the country that they were living in. So I started to check up on them for their security, and before you know it, my mom got so that is the event that changed my whole thinking of them. I started to see them as human rather than my parent, if that makes sense. Because I think I think that event, and also also I think my way of thinking. So that event has a huge impact on me, in a way that I started to listen to Dhamma music, Dhamma preaching, not Dhamma music, I'm sorry, Dhamma teaching. So I started to find solace in my religion, and that's how I started to conclude, like, from the, from the monk that I listened to. He talks about, he talks about life, people in general, and that's really truly opened my eye that they are human. My parents are human, and they are not just my parents. Just because they don't know any better to be a parent that I wish them to be. They didn't do anything to me. They didn't do, they didn't torture me. They didn't abuse me. So I started to see that. Instead of blaming them. And from then on, so I started to check up on them, and then I tell myself, you know what? I forgive them. I make peace with them, because my idea of parents is not something that they they wanted to be, or they are limited to be. So I shouldn't blame them. Why am I punishing them for something that, they did the best they could, right? They did the best they could. They sent me here. Whether I like it or not, they did say yes in the end. No matter how long it took them to say yeah. Well, it took them maybe 2 times or 3 times. I don't know. I don't remember much from, I was young then. I wasn't paying attention. So that's when I said in my mind that I forgive you. And not too long after that, my mom got sick. I won't tell you the reason why, but my mom got sick. And just like that, 3 days later, she was gone. And to this day, I've never really talked about this with anybody. Because it's hard. I haven't talked to my siblings. We were on the phone a lot, me and my siblings and I. We were on the phone a lot, calling them and checking up on them. And I still have one sibling back home, so he was the one who was in charge of, like, taking care of my parents physically, and we support them financially from far away, but with phone calls, things like that. So and we haven't talked to each other since then. It was just too great of a pain for us to talk about. I haven't talked to my other siblings. I haven't talked to any of my siblings. They needed time to grieve. And anyway, so getting back on my mom. So she was passed 3 days later. It took all but 4 days. 1 day she was alive. 2nd day she was okay. The 3rd day she started to have trouble breathing, and 4th day we were trying to take her to the hospital, but no hospital would take her, and she just died on the way. Yep. So anyways, this is the first time I'm talking about it, and I'm losing myself. And so after she passed, I was the one who broke the news to my dad. I called him, and she's passed on the way to hospital, so they took her straight to
the burial place or the cemetery, or what is this called? Cremation, yeah, place to be cremated. And so, anyway, my dad couldn't believe it. My dad, uh, couldn't believe it. And then it all happened so fast. A few days later, he was gone too. In the beginning, we were like, oh, okay, my mom passed, our mom passed. There's nothing we can do about it. Now we must focus on dad. And so my dad didn't show any emotions when I called him to say that my mom has passed. He was just sitting there, gazing away, thinking about who knows what. Like, he always done that. He has always been a thinker. He never say anything on his mind, but he just think on days ends, and he would never tell you anything. And I used to blame him for that. But now that I'm grieving on my own, I think I understand him a little bit more. I think